Today on the Bumper to Bumper Roadmap, we're going to have an automotive tip of the week. We're going to come up with something here pretty quickly. And then open phones and text, of course. And what do you do when you see a puddle under your car? And I know growing up, you know, it was really easy. There was only 3 colors underneath the car. There was green, there was red, and there was brown. And those were the only 3 colors that you worried about. And condensation from the air conditioner was clear water. That was all you worried about back then. And so what do you do now when you walk out to your car and there's a puddle? Can you really tell anything about that puddle if you're Joe the homeowner or Sally the neighbor?
I don't think so, Dave. I mean, well, with one data point of a color, no, you can't. And like you said, if you rewind and go back in that time machine to 1975, heck, for that matter, maybe even 1985, you're right. If it was green, hey, it's coolant.
It's coolant.
That's still pretty. I don't know. Well, there's some other.
Don't let your cat drink it.
Yeah, we'll get to some of the other colors, but it was pretty easy then. Then these damn Toyotas came along and they started using red coolant for some reason.
Gosh.
And it was the same as the green coolant. It was nothing special. It was just a different color. It was red. So then you think,
what does red and green make?
Purple, blue.
Red and green was blue.
So so then all of a sudden people say, oh, I got this red leak, and you go, oh, it's transmission fluid. Ah, wait a minute, maybe not. We got red coolant now. And now fast forward, but now let's go to we'll go when it's 75 to 85, 95. Oh, they came out with this. Another GM suddenly came out with this other coolant. That was red too. But guess what? It's a different red coolant
than the Toyota red coolant.
The only thing they have in common is the fact that they're red and they belong in vehicles. So, same color, but different type of fluid.
One's Diet Coke and one's Pepsi.
Yeah.
But they're both brown.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Now, fast forward to today. I guess the only one fluid, I mean, I think we did a little promo on this, how you can diagnose or how to know what's leaking based on the color. I think the short answer is I think there's only one fluid you could probably tell what it is based off the color. And that's water. Clear water condensation that we're going to see now.
And that's the one that pops up. You know how you know when monsoon season starts? Just look down on your soda or your cold drink, and if there's sweat on the side of it, it's monsoon season.
Yeah, the humidity is
Well,
up.
your air conditioner does the same thing in your car. So pretty much if there's a puddle underneath the passenger floorboard, that's going to be proximity to where the coil is for the air condition. That's where you're going to see the puddle of clear fluid. But everyone gets nervous this time of year. The phone rings. Hey, I got this puddle under my car. Well, what color is it? We still ask that. What color is it? Well,
right.
I don't think it has a color. Okay. Where's it at? Well, it's right underneath the passenger floorboard. Okay. That may very well be condensation, but if you want to feel better, swing by the shop and I'll stick my head under there and tell you that's condensation.
Sure, right? And you could tell, I guess the next thing to do, if you pull out of the space you were in or you notice it in your garage when you get home, is you want to feel it. So let's say you're driving a Toyota, okay, and you have this red fluid. Well, it's going to be one of 2 things in that car. So you've got your next data point, which is the feel, the consistency of that fluid. But depending on what your knowledge is, you still may not know. It feels greasy because coolant feels greasy,
right?
But it has a different consistency than the transmission fluid would be.
So, but now transmission fluids we've got blue ones, we've got green ones, we've got red ones. I think what helps more in relation to where it is in the car. When you see a leak underneath the back of the car, there's only a couple things that could be. That could be a fuel leak because generally the gas tank is at the back of the car.
And that's usually going to come along. The old whiffer's going to tell you.
Yeah, the whiffer's going to tell you what that is. So that's the other. And then the other is, you mentioned, Matt, if someone's got some groceries in the back of the car that they forgot about and maybe something spilled out, that could be, if it's white and it smells moldy, that's milk from your grocery bag.
Well, I worked at Harry Martin Chevron, Miller and Indian School in Scottsdale, way back in the day. And I had this older car come in. It would have been a Buick or some kind of rear-wheel drive car, and it's got a leak in the rear. And I thought, well, one thing back there's a differential. And then you look, and I'm like, oh, this is strange. Never seen it. This car must have maybe she backed into something because looked like the shock absorber for the bumper. Those older cars, the bumper was mounted to the frame on some shocks. And Oh, looks like that's leaking. Well, I pop the trunk open. Nope, there's a bag of rotten vegetables that kind of tilted over into that compartment on the trunk, and it was dripping out. So all kinds of things. I mean, we've seen the strangest things, leaking. So,
but what you can do as a consumer, the things that you can do is just pay attention to where you're parking. If you're pulling in a parking spot, take a glance down, see if it's dry. And then when you're pulling out of the parking spot, you say, Matt, the peripheral vision. Don't just see what you're thinking about. I mean, just be looking around. Just be observant about your car. When you walk up to the car, is there any new scratches on it? Did someone hit it with a shopping cart?
Yeah.
But looking at the pavement when you pull in and looking at the pavement when you pull out, because basically if you have a leak, you want to do something about it. You don't want to ignore it.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about, we see cars on the side of the road. The fastest way to ruin an engine is continuing to let it overheat. Just about every single occurrence of an overheated engine that started with a leak, small leak that could have identified, not a catastrophic failure. I mean, you can have the radiator burst where everything all goes to hell all at one time. But usually this was a slow boil. And you probably see the same thing, Dave, at Tri-City Transmission. The transmission, I've been noticing that leak for weeks. I just didn't, pretty soon it's out of transmission fluid. So the car's talking to you.
Yeah, so you don't want to ignore a leak, but I do get cars in my shop or transmission shop. We do everything else too, but car comes in for a transmission leak because it's red. It's a Toyota, and sure enough, it needs a radiator because they see red fluid. So you get just the leak. You're thinking, and you do come out and you do see a puddle in your car. Shoot, what do you do? I tell you what, it's better safe than sorry. That's what I'm going to tell you. Listen, so have yourself roadside service, so it's not a big deal.
Preferably through your insurance company.
Insurance company, yeah. You don't have to go to the motor club. Your insurance company can handle it. Have yourself towing, so that's not a big deal. I think last I checked, I pay $16 a year for one of my vehicles, so it's a little over $1 a month. That's part of it. Because you can take a small problem and make it cost $3,000, $5,000, $8,000. So better safe than sorry. And the other thing is, get your car in the shop regularly. Your regular oil change should be in there every 5,000 miles. And when somebody tells you about a leak, don't just blow it off. I mean, some people are super overzealous about selling leaks. Some of these auto shops, but that's where you got to ask some questions.
Yeah. I think you're right, Dave. People have the tendency. At times, I mean, there's this inherent distrust for some reason, and
I understand
there's some cases where it's totally legit, but people really, I don't want to say you got to let your guard down, but you've got to be open to having an engaging conversation,
open dialogue,
and dialogue with the shop. I mean, I've had customers, hey, we checked your car over. Maybe it came in for something unrelated, and I think that's where a lot of these leaks come from. But now, don't just shut the guy down. If it's a good service advisor or somebody that's talking to you, they're going to be prepared. So don't just put up your thing and say, no, I don't want to do anything with it. Engage, have the dialogue, have the conversation. Refrain from it's okay to say no.
I get it's a knee jerk. No, don't want to touch it. I get it. But pay attention.
Yeah, and take the information, have the conversation, and get a better understanding. Don't just don't get it in the way. I can't pick the right words. Don't stand in your own way and let this thing turn into something that it doesn't need to be.
Right, and that's where the key to having a good relationship. You can be comfortable to have that dialogue versus somebody you don't know, somebody you haven't seen before. Is this guy going to be really pushy and make me buy something I don't want to buy? It's okay to say no. But have the conversation, and then once you have some information, then say no with a purpose versus just saying no. So, one of the leaks that comes up that I had in my shop here just the other day, I had this Dodge truck, and we're doing the batteries. We're working on the transmission. It's got 2 batteries in it, and when you look at the battery cables, they just look like chia pets, just all fuzzy and nasty. The batteries still start the car, but the battery cables are all fuzzy. Well, that battery's starting to have a leak, kind of a surface leak, or starting to outgas. And batteries do leak. And when batteries leak, they leak onto other things underneath the hood, and they cause damage. So that's where having a battery in your car that's starting to leak is not a good thing. You want to get that taken care of as soon as possible. You know, batteries, they're a 2-3 year thing.
And that battery leak, that's not something that you're going to see on the ground.
No,
I wouldn't call that a
correct.
leak. I'd call that it's slow. It's sweating.
Mm-hmm.
It's sweating, and that battery or that shirt, it's just wet. And now how your shirt starts to stink? Well, your battery doesn't stink. It starts to grow acid.
What do you think of a set of battery cables for a Dodge Cummins diesel
Oh, they're
cost?
several $100s.
Several $100s, yeah, way more than just getting some batteries taken care of.